All right, today I'm going to show you how to create your first Flask application. For those of you that do not know what a Flask application is, we'll just call it a model view controller for Python. So MVC for Python. You should be able to go out and do a little bit of chat and get some really good definitions for that. So we're going to start with a new project. So I've got a brand new project here. I'm calling it Flask Example. Okay. And first thing I do is I close the VENV folder because I'm not going to put anything there. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create some basic files that I'm not going to mess with ever again. And then I'm going to share those with you on a GitHub repository. And you should be able to grab those and download them and then use that as your starting point for your future applications. Okay. So the first folder I'm going to do, actually, why don't I show you first how I'm going to push this up to GitHub, right? So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to say VCS, share project on GitHub, and I'm going to uncheck the private part. So we'll make it not private. And I'm going to click share. Okay. Share. All right. And I'm going to send everything up. That's fine. Click add, and it's going to put it out on the GitHub. Okay. And then I'll share that link with you. Now that it's public, you should be able to just go out there and clone that repository and start from there. Okay. First thing I want to do is I want to create a new directory. Okay. And a new directory, and I'm going to call that directory app. Now that is part of the Flask framework. It should have a folder called app. Okay. And then I'm going to make a file, a new Python file, also called app. And it's going to be, actually, so it says here, do you want to add the following to Git? I'm going to check this box and it will add it to my Git. Okay, so I click add. It turns green. And if I click on my little Git, it tells it's right here. Okay, so for right now, it's green. Now inside that app file, I'm going to just have a simple little bit of code that says from app import app. If it's main, run it in debug mode. Okay, that's how it'll always be. So app is done. Okay, let's make it so you can see a little bit better. All right, this is red up here because this app right here, it doesn't know how to import that from app yet. Okay, so we're going to do that right now. Okay, but before we do that, let's just double check. All right, I think we're good. I think that's good enough for everything right now. Now we're going to go in and we're going to create our first file inside app. Okay, so new, and then Python file, and the first one is going to be the __init __.py. Now this is a special file. Python, especially Flask, knows that this has a special meaning. Okay, this is the initiatory, the very first one. Okay. All right, we're gonna click OK, and it initializes it right in here. All right, and then inside here, we're going to start our Flask app inside here. Okay, and notice that when we made this init file, it put a little special icon in the app. Okay. That makes this app an app, and if we come back over here, it's still showing up here, but that's because we don't have an app yet. Okay, so we want to put some stuff in here. The first thing I want to do is say from Flask import Flask and G. Okay, and it starts being all we're red, we don't know what's going on. Okay, what that means is we need to install Flask. Flask should be a library that we want to install. So if I come down to, let's just go up here and look at our settings, and if I look and see what's installed, so I go to version control, and I go to project, Python interpreter, all we have installed is pip. Okay, what really we need to have installed is Flask. So I could click this little plus button and install Flask. Okay, but to do it a little bit easier, we will just use the terminal. So we come over here to terminal, and we notice we're inside our virtual environment because we have these parentheses around the VENV folder here. Okay, that means it's our virtual environment, so we're inside there, and we're going to just do a pip install Flask, just like that, and hit enter. And it's going to go out there and it's going to do a full Flask install, grabs all the libraries that we're going to need, and puts them all in the right places, and the red underlines disappear. Now if we go back and look and see what's actually been installed, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different packages installed. Okay, so you should double check that and see if you have 9. Okay, what we want to do next is create what's called the app factory. I always like this way to do it, app factory. You right click on app and you create a new Python file, and I like to call it app_factory. And this is just a workaround for some issues that you're gonna have with you'll never really have to know any of this stuff. There were some issues with circular redundancy going on. But we have Flask installed. This creates a little app called app, and it returns app. That's all it does. We go back into init, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get that from the app factory. So we're going to say from .app factory import create app. So it's going to grab that in there. It's going to go out to that file we did and just bring in that import create app. And now we're going to actually do our app create app. Okay. And then that should start our app. Okay, so it should start our Flask. Okay, when we call it. So we will come down and we will now do our routes. Okay, so we need another file called routes, and the routes are like the brain for the whole thing, right? So we need one called routes.py. And inside routes, we're going to just kind of create our first really easy. So we'll say from Flask import. And we want to import probably, I really like the render template. So let's just do render template. Okay. And then we will define our first route. So we'll go at app.route. Okay. And that's our first one, and we'll define it, and it will just take, but it doesn't know where app is yet because we don't have it in here. So let's include app at the top, right? So from it's trying to do it already for us, import app. So it says go out here and make sure you're using app, which is, it's referencing this app, but it can do that because of this file, init file is here. So it's able to reference this app and this file kind of go together, and it turns this app right here into a into like an app. Kind of a weird way of saying that. So and we have our first route. Now when we go to our website and we go to /, meaning nothing there, it says here's the index file. So we need an index file. So let's create a new folder, new directory, and it needs to go into templates. Okay, and inside templates we need an index file. Okay, so let's just right click new HTML file and index.html, and we'll just put our name. Okay, and in the body we'll put our name. So we'll do an h1 tag and we'll say welcome to Brian Marshall's website. Okay, and that's our name. Okay, so we have our index file, our app factory is done, we have our index file, our routes. Route is really easy, it just renders whatever template is in here if we go /. Okay, and then in our init it initializes it, but we still need to put in our route. So in our init we need to add our routes. So from import routes. Okay, so that's going to make sure we include the routes inside our application. Okay, so this routes here becomes part of our application. All right, so we are double checking everything. Let's go ahead and create a secret key. Sometimes that app.secret key equals your secret, and your secret is fine. So we'll finish that up with one of those, something like that. All right, so that is good. Okay, and I think we have everything we need for this to run. Okay, to run, a lot of people are going to just go up here and click this little button which says current file run. not the way I want you to do it. Instead, I want you to come down here and I want you to type in Python app.py. Okay, Python app.py, and it's going to run. So it says, hey, this is running. It's running the app factory, okay, which is nice. Turns it on. This is a development server. That's fine. This little warning is perfectly fine. And then on running, it says it's running it here on 127.0.0.1. And if I do something on this page, it will show up here. So when I go to that page, it says, welcome to Brian Marshall's website. I clicked on it. There it is. That worked fine. Okay. So now, let me move this over just a little bit. I want to come back over here, and because I'm in development mode, I can go back to my index file. And I can change this to Brian Marshall's best website. Okay, I don't have to hit save or anything. I just come over here and hit refresh, and now it says Brian Marshall's best website. Now, if I want to add a picture here, which is kind of cool, I'm going to come over here, and inside my app folder, I'm going to create a new directory, and I'm going to call this directory static. Okay. And inside static, I want to have a new directory called assets. Okay, assets. And inside assets, I'm going to go out to the internet. I'm just going to put a picture right here in assets. I'll be right. All right, so I found a picture. Okay, and I put it out here. It's called Tyler.jpg. Okay, and over here inside my index file, I'm going to put that in there. So I think what I'll do is we'll just do a BR here to kind of give it a space, and then I will paste in some code. Now let's talk about this little bit of code. So it says, here's my image, and the source is, it's in the folder for static. So no matter where I am on this whole thing, it's going to go to the static folder. Okay. And inside there, it's going to find assets and Tyler. So this right here needs to say assets, and this right here needs to say Tyler. Okay. Assets, Tyler. So inside the folder static, go into assets and Tyler, and it's a JPG, and the description is Tyler with his cool glasses. All right. Now, if I go back out to the web and I hit refresh, you'll see Tyler with his cool glasses. It's one of my kids. Okay. Tyler with his cool glasses. All right. Now, what if I want that picture to be a little bit smaller, right? So I can just say width equals, I don't know, 250. Let's go 300. Okay. And then come back out and refresh, and it makes it a little bit smaller. Okay. So that is some of the basics. Now, what will I do now? I want to make sure this right here gets sent up, right? So if I go down to Git, I should be able to say add. So right there is add, and it should turn green. Okay. If I come over here and look, all of these files are ready to be moved up. I need to add a whatever type of notes. So this is like class example for Flask. I can do a commit and push the whole thing up. And you guys should be able to grab that basics of Flask, and it should run. Now, every time I go to the page, look at this. We got the debugger. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, we have 7 things. Every time I go to that page and refresh, it should add. So it added 2 more. Okay, and it even has like timestamps of what's going on. Okay, so what I want you to play with over the weekend is adding a link up here and having 2 pages go back and forth to each other. Okay, and let me show you how to do a little bit of that. So if I go into my routes, okay, so here's my routes, and I want to create another route. Okay, so app.route, and let's just call it the about page. This is going to say, all right, render the about.html. Okay, so it kind of builds it all for yourself, right? Or builds it all with the GitHub Copilot, right? Now, what I want to do is I want to come back up here into my templates folder, and I want an about page, right? So we're going to go new HTML file, and we got to name it just like we did, about.html. That's here, and we'll call this the about page, and down here, h1 about me. Okay, that's good. All right, and now we want to add another. We want to show you the power of this. We're going to say a new HTML file, and we're going to call it base.html. Okay, And in this base.html, we want to create a Jenga body tag, okay? And look how it's doing it automatically for us here. Block, content, end block, okay? So what that means is, this is just your basic, so we'll call this Flask example. And down here in our block, in our body block, we have this Jenga tag. So block is the start tag. This is the name of it. We're going to call this content. I could also call it body. And then here's the end block tag. And anything that goes inside here, okay, is basically dynamic. Okay, so if I go back to my index page, I can remove all of this and remove all of this and just say extend. So I want to extend my base file, right? So I'm going to go Jenga extends, and this is called block content, and then I'll come down here and I'll end my block. So anything between these two, okay, will be put inside base here, okay? So I go back to index, and this right here was not called layout. It was actually called base, right? So we want to make sure we extend the right thing. So we're going to extend on base. So it basically says use base as the base for all of your websites and extend or put this right here inside the content. Okay. So if we come back and look and hit refresh, this will still work. Okay. But notice it changed up here to Flask example because that's what I put into base. And then notice that this is in the content. Now, if I come back and go to my about page, it has all of this crazy stuff in here, but I can copy this right into my about. And instead of welcome to, I could say about, and I can get rid of all that extra stuff. Okay. And now if I go here and just go / about, it just takes me right to my about page. I get rid of the about, it takes me right back to the Brian Marshall homepage. Okay. So this about page now extends everything off. Now the really cool part comes from your navigation. Okay. From the navigation. So if I go back to my base, up here in the body, I can add navigation. Okay. So I'm going to say, let's just add some basic navigation. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to let Copilot do it, right? So I need basic HTML navigation for my Flask app that will take me from index to about page for my base.html. Okay, something like that. Let's see if it can understand all that. So it says add the base. We already have that. Here's our, so it already used all of our code. All right, so I'm just going to copy this nav part right here. Okay, and I'm just going to put that nav here. And now if I go back to the web and I refresh the page, here's my navigation. Okay, it doesn't look great, but here it is, right? If I go to about, it's there, home is there, about is there, home is there, because I made those changes to base. Okay, so for now, that is as simple as it kind of gets with the about. Okay, I guess if we can look at the code and say what's going on in this code, it's using URL 4, and it's saying go to the index page, URL 4, go to the about page. Okay, really basic. And we can also make some adjustments on basic CSS. So if I come back and ask it again, give me a basic bootstrap CSS look. So it's going to come in and say, it's going to link up to all that CSS, and it's going to want us to put that in there, and it adds all this. So, you know, at this point, I'm going to just double check to see it has everything here that I need. I'm just going to copy all of that code right there from my base, and I'm just going to paste it all right in here. Okay, and now when I go back, because it's referencing all of these over the web, I don't have to put any of my CSS into my static. It's just referencing it all out here. When I hit refresh, it gives me kind of a much better look. Okay, it gives me a home and about. It's kind of a bootstrap CSS look. So that's kind of a cool, and it kind of puts it in container, kind of gives it some stuff. So GitHub can do that really, really well. Okay, it just says, hey, let me look at your code, let me help you out real quick. It adds those little bit right there to it. So at this point, this is what you should be able to do. We're not actually building apps yet. This is just 2 HTML pages. Eventually, we're going to add a database backend. We're going to add a bunch of code that actually helps do stuff. But for now, we're just building the basics of a Flask app. So 3 little HTML pages and 1 little route that just has 2 little routes in it. Okay. All right. So that's what I need you to do. Have some time, fun time over here. Remember, go Dogs. Watch that game. Have a great day.